Tonight on Treasure Detectives, a presidential puzzle.
This is Abraham Lincoln's desk. Could be worth $800,000.
Oh, dear. Look, it's a faker's delight. We'll investigate every lead to find the answers.
Mary Lincoln became a shopaholic.
She was a shopaholic. I want to talk to this piece. The method that Victor uses for testing furniture is he licks it.
And an Elizabethan mystery.
Is Queen Elizabeth I of England?
If the Queen sat for this portrait, this is worth millions of dollars.
It's been altered somewhat.
Where old world meets modern day.
You would not expect to see titanium before the middle of the 20th century.
We can look at the painting with an infrared fluorescent analysis. Look at that.
I see lines underneath her chin.
Makes the wrinkles look larger.
After all that, there is only one conclusion. Are your hands sweating there?
We do not sweat, my dear.
Oh, no, you perspired. Feels like a little bit of England coming here.
Does it?
Yeah, a little bit. Let's hope it's an Elizabethan painting,
Yeah, let's hope so.
not something dodgy. Catherine and I have come to the Elizabethan Gardens in North Carolina, and we've come to see a portrait of Elizabeth I. Now, if this thing's real, it could be worth an absolute fortune. Hello.
Hi. Hello, Curtis. I'm Penny Rose.
Curtis, Penny, nice to meet you.
Catherine.
Welcome to the Elizabethan Gardens.
Thank you.
Judy Barnes, Penny Rose and Sandra Snap collectively manage the gardens. These ladies are lovely, and they have that good old Southern hospitality.
This garden actually is a memorial garden to the colonists that came to this island 400 years ago. And that's still a mystery as to where they went.
In 1585, under Queen Elizabeth, a group of colonists settled here, but survived less than 3 years. Supply ships found the settlement mysteriously abandoned. It was dubbed the Lost Colony. The Elizabethan Garden serves as a memorial to Queen Elizabeth I and the Lost Colony.
Does it look English?
This easily could be at somewhere like Hampton Court, couldn't it? It's that, yeah, it's got that kind of feel about it. This little
Wonderful.
This is our gatehouse that serves as our gift shop, and this is the painting of the Queen.
So there it is.
The painting was given to the Garden Club of North Carolina during the early 50s. She was purchased at an auction in New York. We don't know where they got it from, though. She did hang in this room for quite some time with the, hurricanes on the Outer Banks and the moisture, mold, mildew.
One time she hung in the foyer out there.
But in the little vestibule there.
Out in the fresh air.
Yes.
The daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, Queen Elizabeth I ruled England and Ireland between 1558 and her death in 1603. Under her reign, England became one of the most powerful countries in the world. Elizabeth was and continues to be one of the most adored monarchs ever. And because of that, her portraits can sell for millions.
But she's also traveled in the back of a station wagon wrapped up in a beach towel.
Where?
A former board chairman believed with all her heart that there was great value to this portrait, and she put her in her car and wrapped her in a beach towel and carried her around trying to convince others. We really think that you have a 16th century painting here.
I think she looks old.
She does look old.
To see a portrait of her with wrinkles is most unusual. Today, you would Photoshop the wrinkles out.
This morning, I looked at the mirror and oh my, I have as many wrinkles as the Queen did.
She was often known to destroy paintings that did not present her in the way she wanted to.
So if she sat for this, I don't think she'd have been too chuffed with the results, would she? Let's be honest.
No, but maybe she didn't see the end result.
So whether or not she was actually there sitting there for this painting is still a question.
If it's real, it could be worth millions of dollars.
We hope so.
What's that going to mean to the gardens?
It's quite expensive to run a nonprofit such as this, and a lot of people don't realize that it's the little things that tend to eat up your finances, the cleaning up of debris after a hurricane, or just the trimming of the shrubs. It all ends up costing money.
And well, times are hard right now, too, and so people aren't giving to nonprofits like they used to.
What do you cut? Do you cut plantings? Do you cut jobs? Where do you obtain the funds in this economy to keep a historical garden alive? If the portrait turns out to be authentic, it will provide an endowment for this place. It will save the Elizabethan Gardens.
Well, for me, the Tudor and Elizabethan period is the most fascinating, so I can't wait to start getting my hands on this. We need to tell you all about North Carolina, Mr. Smith.
Oh, go on then.
It's a Queen Elizabeth portrait.
Magnificent.
It's Queen Elizabeth I of England, the Virgin Queen.
It's royalty. I love it.
If the Queen sat for this portrait, this is worth millions of dollars.
I've never seen a portrait of Queen Elizabeth I where she looks old.
I just love it because she looks like a real person. She doesn't look all made up, so it's kind of cool because she looks, you know, her age.
Did she say cool?
That's the Queen. You don't talk about the Queen that way.
Queen and cool don't go hand in hand.
No, it's Queen Elizabeth I.
Queen Elizabeth, one of the
Okay, well,
greatest
what should
monarchs in
I
the
use?
world. Regal.
Regal.
Fabulous.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, it's owned by the Elizabethan Gardens in North Carolina.
Yeah, so if it is real, this will keep the gardens going for a very, very long time. The three elements we'll be investigating are the wood. What kind of wood is it painted on? The paint. Newer pigment will contain different chemicals than paint from the 16th century. Undersketching. We want to see if Elizabeth actually sat for this portrait or it was somehow copied.
If this turns out to be what we think it could be, it's history-changing.
So I think we've got a lot to do with this. Good God.
I got my Union Jack socks on as usual.
Good, that's all I like to see.
Oh, you just
A proud British human being.
Absolutely.
God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen.
Come on, Curtis,
God
join in.
save our Queen. Send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save our Queen.
What else have we got this week, then?
Well, I've got something.
Have you now?
It's not regal, but it could be presidential.
Ah.
Do you like that? Do you like
That's
that?
pretty good.
This could be Abraham Lincoln's desk.
Why do we think it's Abraham Lincoln's desk?
Well, here's the story. This is Pamela. She was mowing this lady's lawn. She did such a good job of it, the lady said, come in and choose one of these pieces of furniture.
So the lady that she mowed the lawn for told her that this was Lincoln's desk.
Yep, she's got some kind of documentation that links it to the Lincoln family. So that's all I know at the moment, but so if it's real, then it could be worth $800,000.
Really?
Wow.
I've only spoken to her on the phone. I haven't met her yet, but she's coming in and she's bringing the desk with her.
And where's she from?
Texas.
She's driving all the way for us to...
For us to examine and hopefully...
Authenticate.
Authenticate for her.
OK. So when was Abraham Lincoln assassinated, then?
Something 65?
It was 1865, yeah.
OK. So for this to be his, this would have had to be 1840s, 50s, 60s. And it's a faker's delight because, you know, you whip something up like this with old wood, all of a sudden...
easy to age.
You know, you knock it about with a bicycle chain, and then you just daub a load of paint over it.
It'd be really exciting if it
I'd love
really
it to
was
be.
tied to Abe, yeah.
Even though I'm not American, I've heard of Abraham Lincoln. He's famous. Lincoln, Washington and John Wayne. Probably the three most famous Americans in our country. Queen Elizabeth, Abraham Lincoln. How cool is that? Two of the most pivotal figures in history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Today, we've got Pam Johnson coming in. She's driven all the way from Texas with a table in the back of her car that she believes could have belonged to Abraham Lincoln.
You must be Pam.
Yes, I am.
Hello.
My name is Pamela Johnson. I am here with my Lincoln table to get my table authenticated and hopefully sell it.
We'll carry it in, Pam, don't worry.
Okay.
Good for you, mate. Bit of exercise. Not done anything since you got to America.
I haven't done any since, well,
It can't just be about drink.
my memory don't go back that far.
Right, note to self. Don't authenticate any more heavy things.
No, no more desks. If this turns out to be real, this could be a great find of historical significance.
Right, let's get this off, shall we? And see what we can see underneath. It's like Christmas. Well, it's a lovely thing, isn't it? Well, there we are. So what's the story, then?
the elderly lady across the street saw how good I was, you know, keeping my yard up. So she asked me to mow her yard, and she told me she didn't have any money to pay me. But since her mother is moving in, she had a table that she needed moved out the house. So she gave me the table.
You should have mowed more lawns.
I tell you what I'd love to have from you is copies of the documentation you do have, because the money here is the provenance.
Okay.
Pam did tell us she had some documentation relating to the origin of this table locked away. Now, with that information, it's the provenance we're looking for, because that could tie it to the Lincoln family.
What would you do with the money?
I have grandkids that I would put the money towards their education and plus open up my own restaurant. I've been a long time waiting for a blessing.
And you've just had it sit in your house for 25 years?
Just had it just sit there with the TV on top.
You had the TV on top
well,
of
it's
what
a
could
small.
be Lincoln's desk.
Yes, I mean.
Shame on you.
Well, if Lincoln had had a TV, he'd have probably put it on air.
Look at that fabulous top. Isn't that?
And it's been like that ever since I had it.
It kind of looks right. The workmanship's pretty good.
It's been blackened over the top. It's put on to cover up all manner of evils.
And underneath, you want to look at the construction of these things. Come here, have a lay with me under a table, Mr.
I knew
Smith.
what you were going to say. You're going to make me lay on the floor again.
You need to look under here, you see. Look.
There.
Right, you see here, these nails look hand-cut, but, you know, that doesn't mean they weren't hand-cut a little bit later in America.
There.
Right, you see here...
Yeah.
Now, here's some loose splinters here.
Hang on, let's pick some off.
We're not going to damage anything. We can use these splinters for testing. Is that OK? We're still doing... Are you all right there, Miller?
No, I'm not.
Have you ever seen anything so ridiculous? 2 Englishmen laying under your desk. Would you have ever thought that was going to happen when you got this desk?
I never thought.
I look like a tortoise on his back.
Catherine is in North Carolina investigating the Elizabeth portrait, whilst Andy is in Los Angeles checking out a table that may have belonged to Abraham Lincoln. The basic elements we can investigate are the construction. Was it done by hand carpentry, as in the early 1800s, or by machine? We can test the wood to find out if it's new or old. The provenance. Does the story of how this desk was passed down through the generations match American history? All of this information can tell us whether this thing is a fake or the real thing.
Oh, hi, Andy.
Thanks for coming.
Nice to see
Come
you
on
again.
Finding out about this table is going to be very tricky. So I'm bringing in somebody who's got a very unique approach to finding out about this kind of table. It's genuinely unique.
Let me explain to you what I do when I'm looking at a piece. Basically, I want to talk to this piece. I want to put her at ease so she can talk to me. So obviously, I have to be very gentle, very careful.
So almost like, so basically you're like a furniture whisperer.
Right.
Like a horse whisperer, but
Yeah.
for furniture.
Furniture.
Victor is an expert in furniture from the 1800s who's got a genius connection with furniture. Hopefully he'll give me an idea of whether or not it's from the period I'm looking for.
Well, this is very exciting. Yeah, I'd like to take the drawer out and examine it up close. This is good.
He licked the... Victor uses an unusual method for testing woods. He licks it. I've never seen anyone lick it.
I get a lot of smoke in my mouth. Was this in a fire or something?
Not that I know of, but that doesn't mean it wasn't.
Yeah. By smelling it or even tasting it, I am trying to see how old the wood is, because wood, when it gets old, changes smells and textures. A little piece of this wood would help me for closer examination.
Okay. Now, what I've got in here, I've got the little piece that came off. Is that little piece there? That's what we've got.
Yeah, this is very small, but we'll give it a good shot. We're going to burn it to figure out what the top coat is.
Okay.
It doesn't burn that well. Yeah. It has the sweet taste.
There is a faint odor in there.
Yeah. Formaldehyde. You can smell that.
So that's the smell.
Medicine-y.
Yeah, because it's formaldehyde. Don't they use that for embalming?
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Formaldehyde is basically medicine and smells and tastes like medicine. I don't expect ordinary people to know this. This is my business. I've been doing this for a long time. I am in chemicals all day long.
That shouldn't be there, should it? That's the thing.
Yeah. Formaldehyde would not have been available during Lincoln's period. This could be maybe maintained later on with formaldehyde.
Right. The wood that we tested has formaldehyde that shouldn't be in wood from this period, but that doesn't actually mean that it can't be from the period. But the formaldehyde
came later on.
Yeah, that's not really what I wanted to see from that, is it?
Correct.
Look at us all dapper first thing in the morning. Making a bit of an effort this morning for Mr. Mould. Philip Mould isn't the type of guy, is he, that walks around in T-shirt and jeans?
No.
Philip Mould is one of the leading experts on this period of paintings in the world. Andy and I are going to call him because we want his take on what to do next with this Elizabeth portrait.
Curtis?
Philip, good morning to you from Los Angeles, sir.
And good evening to you from London.
I sent you these pictures of this painting of Queen Elizabeth I. You know, being the leading expert in the world in this period, I really wanted your opinion first of the portrait and what you thought, and also what journey you would take this on.
Well, Curtis, I mean, you have no idea how many would-be portraits of Elizabeth I there are out there. And there's a reason for that, and that is that the Queen was the apex of power and authority. She was the sort of glamour god of the time. Now, there are out there many works done a few hundred years after she died, but I think this has a chance, from what I've seen, of being something that shows the characteristics of a 16th century work of art. What I would really want to do with this picture is have a look at the wooden panel behind it. Now, it will almost certainly be made from oak.
Yeah.
Then you're on to the art historical argument. I mean, we know, for example, that she was very keen on portraits of herself. She even designed an edict saying that artists could do a certain type of look.
Now, Philip, this painting wouldn't have been painted with Elizabeth sitting there, would it?
I can tell you from first glances that it looks to me like a secondary work. That is, by an artist copying another artist's work. But bear in mind one thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this X thousand miles away across the Atlantic.
Of course.
But it's not the same as you, Curtis, standing there looking at it.
Yes.
I envy you.
Well, thanks for, as always, taking the time to speak to a more humble person who doesn't have your expertise and knowledge.
Not at all. Well, the best of British luck to you.
Philip, thank you very much, sir, and I shall bid you a good evening and a good morning from sunny Los Angeles.
Thank you, and to you.
I mean, Philip's interesting because Philip Mould has uncovered some of the greatest historical portraits ever uncovered in this world.
Yeah.
So the fact that he thinks it's conducive with the period potentially makes this a very, very valuable painting.
Thanks for meeting me here, John.
Oh, my pleasure.
What we've got is a painting of Queen Elizabeth that's allegedly from the 1590s, but there's some speculation that it could be a Victorian copy, so I'd love for you to look at the wood and see if it, dates with that period.
Okay. Very excited to see it.
I asked John Allen to meet me at the Elizabethan Gardens. He's an expert on furniture and frame restoration, so I'm hoping he'll be able to date this wood and the frame to what was used in the 16th century.
She doesn't look very happy, but...
No, she doesn't look very happy. And that's what's so neat about this painting, too, is most of the pictures of Queen Elizabeth, she has that white powdered face.
Yeah, it's a warts and all painting of the Queen.
What kind of wood would have been used in about 1590, late 1500s in England?
Well, typically oak was used in Northern Europe, and looking at the back of this, this certainly seems to have been made from oak, the panel.
Okay.
So that's very good news for the authenticity of this piece. Unfortunately, this is somewhat suspect. These pieces may have been married. The frame and the panel were originally separate. It's been altered somewhat, and that somebody's added these modern metal fastenings to hold it in place.
How about the way it's cut? You can kind of see the blade lines going in that direction.
This would have been sawn in what's called with a pit saw, which was a two-man saw. It being done by humans, it wasn't very precise and machine-like. So if this was a forgery, the person did take the trouble to use older technology and older tools. But I'm surprised that it's actually not painted. The biggest surprise to me is that the back of the panel isn't treated. That's an indication that this was a forgery.
Most paintings from the 15th and 16th century were treated on both sides. Even if the backside wasn't painted, it was sealed to keep it protected. And this painting isn't sealed, which makes me wonder if this painting is not authentic.
Well, thank you very much. I wish you luck in your investigations.
Gonna tell us a bit more about this table,
right.
I hope. Before Pam goes back to Texas to get the documents about the table, I've invited her to come and meet an expert on early American furniture. Andy.
Hi, you must be Andy. I'm Patrick.
I'm hoping he's going to be able to tell me whether this could have been owned by the Lincolns.
So this is it?
This is the one.
You think it's from Lincoln?
Yes.
Nothing's written down.
Yes, I do have a
good.
handwritten letter, plus I have a will.
Well, that's the provenance side of it, which needs to be further researched. All I can tell you about is what I see in the table itself as an artifact.
Yes. If the table is not tied directly to Lincoln, that would be, you know, a little disappointing.
So this has a black painted finish and a gold edge to simulate bronzes. But this is very poorly done. It would not have been black, and it would not have had gold. The style itself, the fact that this is in Renaissance style, it could have been made as early as 1855 or as late as 1875 and still be fashionable. It'd be best if we could look at underneath.
Right.
Okay,
Just tip it over.
Side first.
Just like that. All the wood parts appear to be original. The inside of the table appears to be untouched. Now, let's look at the drawer, because the drawer tells everything. Oh dear. What we have here is the nap dovetail. The way drawers are made is very important, and this drawer was made by a machine called a nap dovetailing machine.
Right.
Which was invented after the Civil War. Mr. Lincoln did not see this table when he was alive, simply because of that drawer.
A dovetail joint is where two pieces of wood in furniture join together, for example, on a drawer. The nap dovetail machine was patented in 1867. Lincoln was assassinated in 1865. So there's no way that Abraham Lincoln, even being the amazing president that he was, could have seen it, let alone used it. I mean, he wasn't that good. That was made after 1865.
It could not have
That's
been.
going to hold up a very big red flag for us,
Well,
isn't it?
however, it could have been in Lincoln's family.
Maybe it was attached to Mary. Do you think that's a possibility at all?
He was the only one killed, so absolutely.
Right. So the table couldn't have belonged to Abraham Lincoln, but that doesn't mean it didn't belong to his wife. I think it's time to find out more about Mary Todd Lincoln. Shall we?
I've flown back to North Carolina to continue the Queen Elizabeth portrait investigation. Curtis, nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, sir.
How are you?
Very well.
Good. I'm with Dave Kiefer. We're going to look at the painting with an infrared fluorescent analysis machine. Now, Dave Kiefer's an expert on this. What he's going to be looking for is all the different types of elements that are in the paint. All I want to get out of this is to get some idea of the paint composition and what's in it.
This is an X-ray spectrometer, and what this machine will do is give you an elemental analysis of your object.
Paint that's 400 years old will have a certain content of certain elements. Very, very difficult to mix up, and some of these elements are really difficult to get hold of these days. So if we can identify the right elements, then there's a very good chance that we can put this portrait straight back into the 1600s.
You want to do an analysis?
Yeah, let's do it.
And hitting go. And voila.
Wow.
These large peaks here typically are indicative of lead.
Which you'd expect to see in a painting.
Which you would expect to see.
Potentially 500 years old.
Definitely.
So that's a good start, is what
yes,
we're saying.
Yes, it is.
I'd like to take, if I can, a reading of that right eye.
What I need to do is reposition this guy.
When we did the paint analysis, we saw what we expected to see. We saw lead, we saw strontium, we saw arsenic, we saw iron. That's the construction of paint from 400 years ago. So we're seeing lead again, aren't we?
Yes, we are. There are other things there. Should not really be in an artifact of this age.
How is that, then? We're seeing titanium in that.
You would not expect to see titanium before the middle of the 20th century.
Which is worrying, to say the very least.
Yes.
Okay, let's take a couple of other areas.
We sure can.
In the paint, we found titanium. Now, titanium's only been around in paint for about 50 years. So how did it get there? Titanium again. So titanium for this could be a deal breaker. And it could bring this painting screaming into the 20th century. But once again, we're seeing titanium here. So we've seen titanium now in more than one place on a painting that is allegedly 480 years old. You know, this isn't a $50 painting. You know, this is allegedly or potentially $1 million painting.
Perhaps something's been touched, or...
The whole thing isn't what it purports to be.
Jason.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Great to see you.
Wow.
Here's the
This is
desk.
it? Very nice.
Today, I'm meeting with Jason Emerson, who's the ultimate authority on Mary Todd Lincoln. Come and have a seat.
Great. Thank you.
He's a historian who's written 3 books on Mary Todd Lincoln and her family, so I'm hoping he can give me some information that's going to tie Mary Todd Lincoln to this desk, but not literally. Does this look like the sort of thing that Mary Todd Lincoln would have bought or owned?
I think so. It's ornate, and she liked her things ornate. She grew up in basically aristocracy in Lexington. She literally married beneath her. He was from the backwoods of Illinois. When they first got married, they did not have much money. But when they got to the White House, kind of all this money and prestige and ability to buy things that she had not had for 17 years, suddenly it was all open to her.
So she kind of went on a spending spree kind of thing.
I think a good word today that people would know is shopaholic, I think.
She was a shopaholic?
She really was.
Seriously?
No, she was, yeah.
Woman after my own heart.
Exactly. You know,
I could spend weeks in your shopping malls out here. I feel in heaven. There is mention of this table in a will.
Really?
I finally received Pam's documents describing the history of the desk, so I'm hoping that Jason can find a link between the names listed in Pam's provenance history with Mary Todd Lincoln's history. There's mention of this table being from Mary Lincoln to Norman Judd. So the kind of thing I'm looking for is a historical link between Mary Todd Lincoln and Norman Judd.
Yes, I know that name.
That's a name you're familiar with?
Yep. He was very good friends with Abraham Lincoln. He was a Chicago lawyer. He was an Illinois state senator. He worked a couple legal cases with Lincoln. They knew each other through politics. And Mary and Judd's wife knew each other. So basically, Judd owed Abraham Lincoln $2,500. And so after Lincoln was assassinated, Judd paid Mary back with full interest. It ended up being, I think, $4,500.
Yeah, so there's a link after Lincoln's assassination. There's still a link between Judd and Mary Todd Lincoln.
Yes.
So that's good. That's all good.
After the White House years, she bought a house in Chicago, and she furnished the entire house. And then she actually had to move out in '67 because she couldn't afford it anymore. So she basically kind of became a homeless wanderer. Mary traveled around America for a while, visiting health spas and spiritualist retreats because she believed in seances and spiritualism.
All right.
Her son Robert committed her to the Bellevue Place Sanitarium, or what today we call an insane asylum, and that was in '75. And then she moved in with her sister.
So a lot of the stuff that she'd had before then, she'd started getting rid of.
Right. Now, Mary did give away a lot of possessions, and in this letter here, Robert Lincoln wrote, "During her life, my mother gave away many things to people." So it's definitely not unreasonable that this could be connected to her.
brilliant.
Certainly not.
Apparently, Mary Todd Lincoln was quite the shopaholic, which would explain why, when she moved in with her sister, she didn't have room to keep all the things that she'd bought. I can relate to that. I've got more stuff in storage than I've actually got in my house. Because, I mean, you can't have enough things. Everybody loves shopping, don't they? Jason, thank you very, very much indeed.
Thanks for having me.
I'll show you out.
All right.
Now that I've got Pam's documents, I can research the provenance and find out if the history matches up with Pam's story. There's the last will and testament of Wilma Gould. 1 flat-top desk, 1 drawer, glass top, black and gold. The documents Pam sent are a letter from the lady whose lawn she mowed and a will from the prior owner. It's from the home of Mary Lincoln and Abe Lincoln, who gave it to Norman Judd. Since Norman Judd did pay off a debt to Mary Lincoln after Abe's passing, it's well documented that they did have a connection. Just me and you, old friend. According to this letter, Norman Judd gave the table to his daughter, who married J. Brewster Gould. Daughter, Mary Mitchell Judd. The Goulds then gave the table to their son and his wife, Edward Brewster Gould and Wilma Gould. Edward Brewster Gould. Right, so that's that, so you're real. Now, when Wilma Gould died, she supposedly left the table to her niece, Jean Murphy. Jean lived there. Pam lived there. Everything seems to check out, but Mary Todd Lincoln would have to be here herself to really be sure. So now I've got to give all my findings to Curtis so he can give Pam a final conclusion. Job done. You see, I can crack on without him. He doesn't have to be here. I don't have to have him here to crack on. I can crack on just me and you, old friend.
Hi, I'm Catherine.
I brought the ladies from the Elizabethan Gardens to meet Joe Baracella at East Carolina University. And he's going to be doing that infrared test to be able to see behind the paint. If the Queen didn't sit for this portrait, it's going to look like a pattern or template. If the Queen sat for this portrait, it would have been a freehand sketch.
Right. Well, we've got our Elizabeth painting in here, I can see.
I'm going to do some infrared photography of it, so it'll be a reflective infrared analysis.
What things are you looking for?
In this case, either underpainting or, pre-drawings.
These portraits of this period are interesting because they could either be the artist sketching them out or Elizabeth being the first poster child for Britain. You could buy a cartoon of her, which you would then use to paint on.
I think it's a bit disrespectful to say cartoon and queen in the same sentence.
Well, you see, now that's interesting. The word cartoon was stolen. About 1910, the word cartoon meant what we're saying. The word cartoon... Yeah, the word cartoon we stole when movies started to become, well...
Animated.
Everyone these days thinks a cartoon is something they see on screen with cats chasing mice around. But the true term is a working template. The perfect case scenario is that we can find out that the Queen sat for this. That will raise its value massively. And the worst case scenario is, after all these tests, you find out it's a Victorian copy, and then it's just worth a few $1,000s, and we'll wonder what all the fuss was about. OK, so what are we looking at to start with? Where are you focusing?
That lens actually is shooting the entire painting. What I can do is I can focus in, we'll zoom in, and then we'll focus.
There we go.
Oh, that is interesting.
This is, you can start seeing some of the line work here.
Yeah, you can.
The eyebrow and down the nose.
Yeah. Actually, you can see a little bit of line work here as well.
You can?
Yeah, so...
You can. How about under her chin?
I see lines underneath her chin.
Makes the wrinkles look larger. Yes, it does.
Her mouth does look older. She kind of has the drooping wrinkle lines.
Someone didn't place much value on their life.
Wrinkles.
Her like this?
There's more detail in the lace than just looking at the picture.
Do you think the detail was there and it's been lost?
That's possible.
I think you're seeing a little bit of maybe where they were drawing in the curls for the hair.
Look at that, and look.
Yeah, it's almost hatch marks. The lines in the eyes are definitely the things where you're almost seeing hatch marks. There's that outline.
Look how even it's been drawn in as well. So we've seen into the painting, that's for sure. Now I need to analyse the information we have to make my final conclusion. Right, thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Very kind.
Thank
we
you.
will love you and leave you.
Thank you, Joe, very much.
Nice meeting you.
Ladies, maybe we should take you with us.
Lovely.
Hello, ladies. How are
Hello,
we?
Curtis. Glad to see you again.
Good to see you.
Welcome back.
Well, been thinking about this a lot, I imagine.
Oh, definitely, definitely. If the painting could be sold for a substantial amount of money, would mean a great deal.
We're a nonprofit. We struggle to do routine things like repair the equipment and maintain the gardens. To have an endowment would be a dream come true.
Are your hands sweating there?
No, no.
They are.
Southern
Come here.
ladies do
The Southern
not
ladies.
sweat.
No, they're not. We do not sweat, my dear.
Oh, no, you perspire.
We perspire.
You perspire.
Yes.
Now, I've looked at hundreds of these over the last 30 years. There's a few things that are confusing about her straight away. A painting like this, you'd have expected to see sealed and painted on front and back. Neither of those things have been done. So then you move on to the paint analysis. We're looking at the composition of the paint. That's really difficult to forge. But nearly every part of it we tested, we found titanium. Now, titanium has been used in paint for no more than 60, 70 years, which makes you wonder how it's got there. And she just doesn't look very happy as well. You know, she wanted to look fabulous all the time. And looking weak would have certainly damaged her position on the throne, that's for sure. And the undersketching shows that she most probably did not sit for this portrait in person. But I think after all that, there is only one conclusion.
We've heard that perhaps they're faked or forged, but we do not even want to think about that.
Worst case scenario would be if the painting were a 1950s reproduction.
The conclusion of this is 100% real. Although she didn't sit for it, it's still of the period and very valuable.
Thank you.
Look at the cold chills.
No, stop sweating. Oh, perspiring. Sorry, don't.
That's called sweat.
But we found titanium.
Where did that come from?
The cleaning.
Cleaning.
Yeah, titanium's in a lot of cleaning products. Of all the paintings we've seen and we know of, this is the only one that shows her in her older years. You know, the best paintings of her have gone for many millions. I think this painting would be valued at about $1 million. There's your dowry right in front of you now for the gardens.
We're trying to remain poised Southern women who just got amazing news.
Know that we will be able to take care of the garden and to share the history with those who came after us.
We couldn't be happier. We couldn't be happier.
Just fabulous.
Yes.
Doesn't it show?
She's smiling. Look at that.
Is that what it was?
That's what it was.
We saw.
Turn up there, huh?
Can you believe it?
Hello, Pam.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. Nice to see
Nice
you.
to see you too.
You've been wondering, I hope.
Yes.
Today I've got Pam Johnson coming in. Andy talked to me about these documents that tie this desk to Lincoln's estate. It's time for me to give her my conclusion whether her desk really was associated with Abraham Lincoln or not. Nail-biting moments?
Yes.
Now, when we met you, I think we realised straight away that the stakes are pretty high here. I mean, if this turns out to be real, this could be worth $500,000 or more. So this would change your life forever.
Yes, it will.
So we've pulled out all the stops, that's for sure. There's a couple of things to start with, really. I mean, visually, it looks like it's from the period. But we tested the wood and found traces of formaldehyde, which wasn't discovered until after Abraham Lincoln's death.
Okay.
The other thing is construction, the construction of the joints. Here, you see they're a funny shape. And these joints were patented, or however you say it in America, in 1872.
Okay.
Which is 7 years after Lincoln died. So this desk isn't Abraham Lincoln's desk.
No.
But one thing's for sure, this desk is of the period. And what it is definitely Mary Todd Lincoln's desk.
Wonderful.
In the right auction, this could easily fetch $250,000.
I'm so overwhelmed.
Good.
Oh, wow. When he sat there and said that it's from Mary Todd Lincoln with the documents that I had, I was, you know, joyful, happy. And when he told me how much, wow, it blew me away.
Tell me how you feel.
Amazing.
Talk to me.
Wow. I feel overwhelmed.
Well, the documentation you provided was accurate, and as for the formaldehyde, it would have seeped through the wood from the layers of varnish and paint applied in later years. So all these things add up. All the things you wanted to do,
I'll be able to do it now.
you can do.
Yes, I will. And I thank you so, so much. I mean, thanks is not enough.
Pam?
Now give me a hug.
Oh, it's a cuddle, love.
I don't get them very often.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Yes.